Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois WorkNet. I updated our meeting schedule with a new meeting number, and I forgot to add the poll. So if you are just joining us, I do need for you to put your name and what agency you're with in the chat so that I can track attendance for today's meeting. I will have this updated for the next one. Just wanted to let you know that right now we have 264 participants that are listed. And if you go to the bar graph item, you can see for your project, you can see how many people that you have entered for case managed, for OII, and for IW, which is incumbent worker. And we discovered that we had a break in our code. So we do actually have 36 incumbent workers who have training either started or completed that will be syncing into this. So we have a list of 324 participants altogether that are entered. Now, the one reason why we only have the smaller number on the dashboard is because those numbers are what has been entered into Illinois WorkNet for the case managed on the dashboard, because that's what we're tracking in these numbers. So we have 264 total participants, but we only have 84 active ones. So if you have a participant that you have entered into the system, but have not added any services for them, have not enrolled them, have not added any employment for them, then you need to do that so that those numbers bump up. One of the things that I do want to show you, we had some conversations over the past week about entering OJT projects into Rapids. We do not need to have those projects entered into Rapids, but I will show you what you need to do. When you have a participant who is entered into the program, and oh, I got to make sure that this one is enrolled and verified. Okay, yes. So on their career plan, you will add a step for the registered apprenticeship program. And this one might already have it in here, so I don't want to duplicate that. So we have a wrap in here. And on these wraps, we have to have a Rapids ID. We also have to have an hourly wage at entry, because if those two items are not there, they will not count as a registered apprenticeship program. So if you need to go back and catch these up for the customers that you've input, you will need to do that. One of the things that we are going to be doing, and I want to show you this, we are also going to be adding a SOC code lookup, and we are going to be adding a drop-down box for you to select what type of training it was, competency, time, or hybrid. When you enter the wrap in the beginning, there's another modal that pops open that asks you whether there is OJT and skills upgrading or retaining going to happen as well. And those things will, you'll still mark those as well. And then we're going to hide those in the background, so you won't have to add any additional information on those. There is one more question that Cody is looking up to see if we have to add it, and that's whether or not the training is done in person, virtually, or as a combination, virtual and in person. So look for this change within the next few weeks. If you already have some of your participants in here, I would suggest that you make sure that that Rapids ID and wage entry are entered before September 30th, because that's the end of the quarter. And we need that information to report those items to the Department of Labor. Please, 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 if you have any questions about this, I am happy to answer them for you. And again, the attendance poll got messed up, so I need you to put in your name and your agency in the chat if you have not already. All right, so what can I answer for you about this? Any questions, or are you good with that?
I'm looking, oh, sorry.
Go right ahead, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at it right now, adding the step service, and it's not giving me apprenticeship as a choice.
Are you adding registered apprenticeship program on the step in the career plan?
I'm in career plan, and then I wanted to add step or service.
So under career plan, under add steps and service, there should be an automatic goal associated with each customer that you're adding, and it's called Participate in Apprenticeship Illinois. If you click that open, anything that you add to that will show up down here. If you click on the add step or service, you should see it in here under training, registered apprenticeship program.
Okay. Yeah, I just have it steps 4. So, okay.
Are you seeing this now?
No. Because I have nothing in the steps 4 complete apprenticeship Illinois program. Let's see, participate.
Okay,
Oh, I got participate and.
So then you have to add a step or service.
Okay.
The blue button, you have to use that add a step or service.
Okay.
And then pick it. And then over here on the right-hand side, click the add.
I see. Okay. Got it.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right. So then if there is a training provider associated with that, you can add that information in. If you have the Rapids ID, the hourly wage at entry, the SOC code, and the type of training, you won't necessarily have to add the service provider information in here. So it's required for reporting to Department of Labor, the Rapids ID and the wage at entry, along with those things that I showed you all in this mock-up here of what we will need to add.
Indeed,
Cindy,
for
ask a question.
yeah, this is for individuals that are being case managed.
Correct.
It's not for incumbent workers.
There is a different training associated with those incumbent workers that is entered through that, and we track the incumbent workers differently.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question. Does it matter which goal it goes under?
We put in, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. I hate that. We initially implemented a Participate in Apprenticeship Illinois program, and there was a step called Develop an IEP for each person, so that you could do that step, individual employment plan, so that you could do that step for each person. And then you could add those additional steps to this goal, so that you wouldn't have to necessarily, but you can write additional goals.
I see. Okay.
Now, on these steps, on each of these steps, we have another option in here. So like if there were, we don't have anything except the development of an IEP as a standard, a standard step that gets added to everybody's profile. But if you don't develop an IEP, you could always mark this as evaluated, not required. I don't know why you wouldn't develop an IEP for a person.
So technically, just one goal with several different steps can be okay.
Will suffice, yes.
Okay.
Now, if there's other goals, like they need car repairs or they need work boots and it's like a supportive service sort of thing, you might want to put that in as a separate goal and then just add all of the supportive service type services to that goal.
Okay. And what about like the earning of the credential? That would be a separate goal as well?
Well, in the step, so like in this RAP step, there is an earned credential tab. So that if they say they earn their AWS,
Okay.
then you would add that credential in here. We are going to connect this to credential registry, but we had a link die. And so we just need to get that reconnected. But
Okay.
if you, so maybe it's the AWS and it is a copy of a certificate, the date that they got it. What is it? It is a, I don't know, what is an AWS? Is it a, it's a certification. And then it would be the American Welding Society. What's the description? Earned TIG welding. And then you save it. And then that credential will transfer to the outcomes tab under earned credentials. It's supposed to anyway. I've got to figure out why it's not doing it. This is my test account, so I got to figure out why it's not doing it.
Yeah, because I was adding it there automatically because it wasn't adding through the earned credentials tab.
It's the same information, so I've got
Right.
to figure out why it's not transferring. I'm gonna send a message off to my programmer on this project. Okay. All right. What in the interim, if you can just continue adding it to the outcomes page, that would be super duper. But I'm hoping that it automatically will transfer for you. Although it did connect it up here, right here. It tracked it as complete.
And Dee, I don't know the system at all, but I'm just asking, is it something that possibly has to sync overnight to show up on the bottom?
No,
Okay. Yeah, because when I saw the action item was there, I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense then. It thinks it's there.
It should do it on, I mean, it should do right away.
Okay.
And just to follow up, does it then, if we add the credential under earned credentials, would it then technically give them 2 credentials for the same one? Will it count it as 2?
That's a good question. That's a real good question.
Because I believe it does, but I don't recall 100% if it was this or the other programs that I've worked with.
All right, those are all good questions. I just put them in teams to the programmer, so we'll see what happens with that. I guess I could always add one right now and see what it does.
Dee, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, she's awfully nice to her programmers because I would have tried it. Call it AWS 1 so you know which is which.
Oh, yeah.
But I always like I'm like, I'm going to try it this way and then let them see which one's missing the connection.
That was a good idea to do the one. Oh, it's a different list here. All right. Okay, cool. Good idea to test that way. But I think it didn't update it. Let me refresh here. It just says at least one credential earned. So I don't think it's gonna change it.
On the, I believe it's the intake where it gives you like a breakdown of what's kind of going on in the profile is where I believe it was adding like 2 credentials.
Say it where?
I believe on the, yeah, the overview, I believe it is. Okay, maybe not there. Then it might be under the career plan where it kind of gives you the overview of what their credentials are earned.
It says, it just says it right here, at least one.
Is it the career plan? I think it might be
This is on the
career-
overview page.
I think it might be the career plan, right in there.
Earned credentials 1. I think the outcomes is different. Okay, but I think that's it. I've got messages over to the programmer about getting this figured out and where we have to put it. So in the interim, until I get you an answer, if you guys could please continue to add them on the outcomes, that would be useful for your purposes for making sure that things are tracked properly. All right, any other questions that I might answer for you? One of the things that we did discover is that if services are added in IWDS and track over to Illinois WorkNet, so like in the case notes, we have, this is test, so it won't show it. But if you have a service or an item that comes over from IWDS when you sync, it will not count as an outcome or service in Illinois WorkNet. So on your career plan, it will show you a listing of the steps and services. And I had this as an example, but it's a real person's file, so I don't want to show it in the recording here. But it will show the services here, and it will show the little icon that looks like 2 arrows chasing each other, that it's synced. And so for you to get those services counted for Illinois WorkNet and for the grant performance, you have to add the step again in Illinois WorkNet. And Sue, I think when we were looking at your stuff, that's what we discovered, was that one client had the sync coming in.
Yeah, so in essence, we would have to add the service again in Illinois WorkNet.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I told you I'd get you answers.
You did.
You don't like them, but
Dee, I have a question. This is Dwayne Fitz from Run Lake College. I have a question about the add steps of services. So I don't have the capability to add a step. When I put in add a step, like if I do career post-secondary education plan, and then I list that maybe as like a training service. When I add the step, is there there's like a save? Because it doesn't give me an option to like save it. What am I doing wrong?
So in here, you gotta, did you add it?
Where do I need to add?
So there's two places where you can add them. And on the outcomes, all of those pieces are supposed to show up here because all it's doing is pulling it in from the career plan. So if you can see, we've got a certificate earned here, and that's all updated from what I did. So if you add the step or service either here or from the career plan, it should be adding it into the customer's profile. So if you wanna hang on, if there aren't
Yeah.
any other questions that I can show people that's in test, I'll stop the recording and then I'll go into live data.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right, does anybody else have any questions that I can show you in test? And if you did not already put your name and your agency into the chat, that's the only way I can track attendance today because I forgot to update the poll. Because I changed the meeting number because it had expired. So I think Tanya and Bonita, you both joined a little bit later. So if you can put your name and agency into the chat, that would be super. And you need to put it to everybody or else it won't track into the system. Sorry about that. Okay, any other questions from anybody? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording.